just so I don't forget. Because we are coming up to 12:15. Mike, are you good to go on your end? Okay.
We're good at this end, David.
Okay, great.
There's 2, 6, 10. There's 12 of us here.
Okay, and there's 19 on the on here. Okay. So we're coming up to 12:15. I'll wait a couple more minutes for people to come in.
I've got you on speaker view, so if everyone mutes, that'll keep you the speaker on instead of popping into other noisy areas. So
okay.
All right.
Okay, it's almost 12:15. We might as well start.
Okay, everyone. Everyone. Sorry.
Are you? I'm always looking for more help.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll mute.
So, thank you. Welcome everyone to our October 19th, 2022 weekly meeting. It's a very special day because we are celebrating Polio Awareness Month, as well as we're having a very special speaker join us, Dr. Robert Scott, who is a Rotarian himself, but he is very influential in the pursuit of getting rid of polio across the world, and he will be speaking to us. I'm going to let Lars do the formal introduction, but I want to recognize some other guests that have joined us today. So we have David and Shelley, that are husband and wife Rotarians, are friends, I think, of John McIntosh, who have joined us in person at the Duke of Kent today. We also have Hannah Winter, who's a doctor who is coming on board to the meeting today to listen to Dr. Scott. And then we also have Marion Axsmith, who's a potential new member who's joining us for a second time. And so welcome to all of our guests. We have some birthdays to celebrate. So Ron Denham, I think he's at the Duke of Kent, is celebrating his birthday on October 21st. So congratulations on that. I think it's a large milestone, if you want to call it that. But we also have Andrew Burton, who's celebrating his birthday on October 27th. We also have some Rotary anniversaries that are coming up. We have Laura Winna, who's celebrating her Rotary anniversary on October 20th, 2009. So she's been with us for almost 13 years now. So congratulations on that. And then, as I usually do, I have a Rotary in history, and I thought it's appropriate that I try to pick something as close to today, but I thought polio would be a good topic to talk to. So on September 29th, 1979, we had our first polio project. So RI's first polio immunization project begins on September 29th, 1979, when representatives from the Rotary and the Philippine Ministry of Health meet in Manila to sign the agreement and kick off the project. Rotary provides support through a 3H grant. So now I'd like to call upon Jackie. I think she's here. Is she here? Is she in person or is she on? She's supposed to be doing our reflection. Oh, thanks, Jackie. If you could do a reflection for today, thank you. You muted yourself, Jackie.
Thank you. Reflections for me are really not lectures or history lessons. They're just short things to get you to think and to reflect. I think Rotarians are beautiful people. So I want you to reflect on the following. The most beautiful people we've known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggles, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These people have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen, and many of them are developed in Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Very nice. And now I'd like to call upon Lars, if he is, I think he's in person, is he not there, Mike? I call on Lars to formally introduce our speaker for today.
He's right here.
Thanks.
Thank you, President David. And I really enjoy your background in your car. And I would also like to welcome Dr. Hannah Wunsch from Sunnybrook and U of T, who got a late invitation yesterday, and I actually read an article she wrote in the Globe that intrigued me. It was about polio. So as our president already has mentioned or reflected, we started Rotary projects in polio in 1979. In 1988, Rotary and the World Health Organization announced the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. And at that time, there were about 350,000 cases of polio in 120 countries. Fast forward, in 2006, those 120 countries had been reduced, thanks to the vaccination, to 4: Nigeria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. UNESCO, CDC, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the governments of the world had joined Rotary and WHO in the program. Rotarians worldwide had played a big role, raising funds and participating in vaccination trips to various countries. Some of our own club members have participated in those trips. When India was declared polio-free, there were only 3 countries left. We are this close. Then WHO declared Nigeria polio-free. We were even closer, only 2 countries, less than 100 cases a year and even much less. But polio is, as we know, only a plane ride away. Suddenly we wake up with polio outside Afghanistan and Pakistan. 1 case in New York, polio virus in the sewage water in London, England. Polio has not been around in this part of the world for 30, 40 years. What is happening? Dr. Hannah Wunsch, as I said, in an article recently published in the Globe and Mail wrote about how unfamiliar she and many of her young colleagues are with polio. Last weekend, Dr. Brian Goldman, host of CBC's White Coat, Black Art, interviewed a lady in British Columbia who had had polio twice. Now retired, she spent her time as a nurse. She is speaking to Rotary clubs and Toastmasters and working hard to convince parents to have their children vaccinated. Monday is World Polio Day. And this and the troubling news made our club members request an update on polio. So we invited Dr. Bob Scott, a member of the Rotary Club of Coburg and an expert on polio, not only in Rotary, but around the world. There is no better person to learn about Rotary, about polio from. For many years, Bob was chair of the International Polio Plus campaign. While he has stepped down from that position, he is still very much involved in the worldwide polio eradication efforts. Dr. Robert Scott was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. In 1966, he and his wife Anne immigrated to Canada, settling down in Coburg. He has been president of his club, district governor of our district, director of Rotary International, including vice president, and the trustee of the Rotary Foundation, and also there being the chair of the trustees in 2007, 2008. He was also chair of the Rotary International Convention in Montreal, 2008. Bob has a long list of significant Rotary and non-Rotary awards, and as a result of his work with polio eradication. We are in for a treat. As everyone who has listened to Bob knows, every time you sit in on a presentation by him, you learn something new. Please put your hands together for a warm welcome to Dr. Bob Scott.
Thank you very much, Lars. That was a very generous introduction. Thank you. I want to share my screen if that's okay with everybody. If I hit that button, I'm told I can share it with the appropriate thing. That's the one. There we go. Now, if I can make it a little bigger, then you can all see even more. Down here, I think. That's better. Okay. Just because it's so topical and so important, I've discovered that COVID has increased the knowledge of most Rotarians about viruses. And I'd just like to start off and get it out of the way, and then we'll talk about polio. You know, the viruses have similar effects, COVID and polio, the similarities, the viruses. They affect some people very badly. Some people don't even know they've got it, and some people seem to carry it around for quite a while. And so there is these similarities. The marked difference, of course, is that the polio virus is ingested into the GI system and then is absorbed and goes from the gut, making changes along the way into the central nervous system, and then produces paralysis, as you know. And sometimes the paralysis of the respiratory muscles and the diaphragm and up into the upper areas of the central nervous system, which then produces inability to breathe. And in the old days, you had the iron lungs, and of course, people died. Large people died. It affects mostly children, which is a difference, I think, from the COVID. And in fact, at one time, it was called infantile paralysis. Vaccines, of course, are the important, and that has been mentioned several times on this broadcast already, and it is important. They have to be kept in a cold chain, and I think most of the COVID vaccines do too. We've been lucky. In polio, one vaccine has now been around for 60 years, and it is only recently that we've developed a new vaccine, and I'll come to that in a moment. If I can change the slide, there we go. Now, just to define what we're talking about. There are now 4 types of poliovirus, in my opinion. We always said there were only 3 types, and for many years, there was type 1, and that is still around and still causing disease in Pakistan and in Afghanistan, and unfortunately, as we'll see later, and what caused a lot of trouble and headlines is that it has unfortunately gone down into African countries again. I'll show you that shortly. Type 2 has been certified eradicated completely in August of 2015. I sometimes wonder, has it? Both of these viruses, as is type 3, which was eradicated in 24th of October 2019, these 3 are wild viruses. They're in the environment, in the water systems, in the dirty water systems. They're ingested by the children and produce the disease. Now, the 4th virus, which is new, and it's called the vaccine-derived poliovirus. You see, in many parts of the world, what we did, and you know this as well as I do, we did big campaigns, and we went out and vaccinated with oral vaccine large numbers of children. Unfortunately, some of the children were missed. There's no doubt, and it's easy to criticize, but if you've been in the middle of DR Congo or in the middle of Nigeria, where I was at one time, they didn't even know where some of the villages were. It is difficult. So some children were missed. These children were missed, played with the children who had been vaccinated. The children who had been vaccinated excreted the virus because it is a live, although attenuated virus. It was excreted, and these other children picked it up and developed polio. Now, it is somewhat controversial how many children it had to pass through before it mutated enough to give disease. But nevertheless, vaccine-derived polio is an entity. And what is even more unfortunate is it now circulates. So we have circulating vaccine-derived polio. Just quickly, I'll give you an update. We'll look at a new strategy, which isn't a new strategy, but it is a reminder to us all, particularly with the polio in the news at the moment. Funding requirements, I can't give up without asking you for money, and then a call to action. I pop in that picture just for interest's sake. It really means nothing. It's a street in Karachi, and of which I walked many times when we were giving the drops to the children. I love my dot maps. We live by dot maps. Now, there's green ones are the new virus. These are the vaccine-derived polio cases, as you see, mostly in Africa. But if you look up here, in the United States, and that's what the case was in the United States. It was a vaccine-derived, being brought in, we think, by a tourist or a traveler into New York. And he got into it, I say a he, it may have been a she, got into the sewer system. And a young man who had not been vaccinated, and let me underline that, who had not been vaccinated, developed polio, paralytic polio. I'm told he was pretty sick. Now, what has happened in that area, in the sewer system and around New York, it has spread out into several other areas. And so it's of great concern. And that's why the headline, because as I pointed out, the vaccine-derived polio virus is now a circulating virus. It gets around. The red dots are the live polio virus. And as you can see there, Malawi, if you know your geography, they're type 2 in Malawi, type 1, and in Mozambique. And these are type 1, and Yemen isn't sure yet. Right there, the huge number of cases there. That's 12 months ago. We developed the new vaccine, which still covers the children for the live virus, but we hope does not produce a lot of vaccine-derived virus. And we have given 500 million doses now, and so far we're not getting a third or fifth virus case developed. That's 6 months ago. So you see how successful this new vaccine is being. It's the children who had it, don't misunderstand me, they're not cured. They still got it. What we're doing here is reducing the number of children. And Nigeria has done a tremendous job, as has DR Congo is coming. This is the wild virus cases as of October 11th. We're doing very well, 29. It's disappointing, of course, because last year we had two only in the whole time in Pakistan. We're up to 29. Most of them in Pakistan are in a very small geographical area, and the hope is we can get in there and do them. But of course, we have the rather nasty opposition that use rifles and other means of preventing it happening. But I am pretty confident that we've overcome most of that now, and we will get these children vaccinated. As I said, we have a modified version of the current vaccine, which is genetically stable, much more genetically stable, and less likely to revert to a form that can cause paralysis, which the original one did. And as I say, we've now had 500 million doses, and touch wood, we have not seen a different type of vaccine-derived polio. That just shows the number of countries in various ways. The green, they've had campaigns. The blue, they're verified, and discussions ongoing, as I pointed out before, in the UK. They're even discussing it. I think maybe they should start discussing it over in New York, and London is discussing it. We have a new polio eradication strategy. Well, we don't. But this has been put together by the group Global Polio Eradication Initiative. To remind you, the people who are in that are down here, if you can see it: World Health Organization, Rotary, CDC, UNICEF, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And boy, I'm so happy they're on, because up until they came on, there was nobody other than Rotary giving large sums of money. And so we were really the main donors. And recently, Gavi has come on, Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization, which is mainly focused on poor countries, that is also under, gets a lot of money from Gates Foundation. But goal one, as you see, goal one has always been to permanently interrupt transmission of all poliovirus. But this, we're obviously focusing on the countries where it is, in Afghanistan, Pakistan. And let me tell you, Afghanistan is doing a superb job, despite the fact we're doing a better job with the Taliban than we did with the previous administration, because the Taliban has allowed us to do countrywide polio campaigns. Goal 2 is to stop the transmission of this new vaccine, the circulating vaccine-derived polio virus. And with the new vaccine, we hope to get rid, obviously, but we cannot certify ourselves polio-free in the world until we get that problem sorted out, in my opinion. How are we doing it? Well, we have to immunize up to 400 million children a year, because there are countries that have little or no money required. They need the vaccine. And as I pointed out, as we point out time and time again, this virus can travel and travel well. And we don't want it to be traveling to all sorts of countries and starting again. For instance, Niger, immediately north of Nigeria, is just a sitting duck for an outbreak. And so we have to be so careful. 100,000 polio-funded workers, at least, to do it. And of course, they are mostly ladies in the countries that we've got in Pakistan and Afghanistan. With the Muslim situation, we have to have the ladies, and they are heroines, they are heroes. They really are. And for instance, in Pakistan, to do one round, you need about 50,000, that is, workers to do it, because it's a big country and a lot of vaccinations to get. And we have to be very careful with our disease surveillance activities. As you see, there's a man at the dirty dish there getting a sample. And that is so important that we know where it is, if it's still there, and to check if it's not there. A negative is even better than a positive nowadays. And in fact, there's I've forgotten the number. It's gone out of my head at the moment. But there are about 140, I think, sites in Pakistan. And 1 week, we had everyone reporting negative. Boy, that was an exciting day. Then the news, of course, you've heard about it, all the thing. Case of polio caused, as I said, by the circulating vaccine in an unvaccinated positive person in New York. Samples found in London, and again in other areas from around London, not just the one area, but they're finding it elsewhere. And as I said, they're probably going to use the new vaccine. And the environmental samples in Jerusalem, where we believe this particular virus started, and which managed to get itself to London and into New York. Only, I'm saying it again, only a plane ride away. Then unfortunately, and this is a great tragedy in our program, we've had a wild polio type 1 detected in Malawi. Most of the cases, as I pointed out, it's the active virus at the moment is type 1, and it is the one that's left. And so one we always knew would be most difficult to get rid of. And 6 were detected in Mozambique so far this year. Huge efforts are being made, of course, to vaccinate as many children in these countries as possible, and also the surrounding countries. You see, Africa, the continent of Africa, is officially certified polio-free. That's from all types of wild polio virus. This is of concern. Now, these viruses that have come from Pakistan, so they're not new wild viruses, as far as we know as yet, in these countries. Funding, of course, is critical, and there has been an estimate through to 2026 that we need another 4.8 billion. I know you older Rotarians are going to throw your hands up in disgust. It's terrible because way back at the beginning when we started this, I think we thought about 200 million would be plenty. And here we are all these years later at 4.8 billion. Rotary has pledged a further 50 million annually through to 2026 on your behalf. Thank you. It is a huge sum of money, yet again, that we're asking Rotarians to come up with. But if we can't give up now, we've spent so much money, we've spent so much time and so much effort, it would be criminal if we walked away. We must not walk away. As I said at the beginning, a minute ago, we made our promise to the children. Just very quickly, where does your money go? Well, this is a year old now. I'm hoping to get the up-to-date one soon. But you see 39% was getting vaccines into the children. 24% was getting the vaccine itself. And you can read around that chart. But the bit about I always point out is research, 2%. It's very, very important that we do research into this. And actually, it's producing a knock-on effect to other diseases, what we're discovering about the virus and how maybe we can find some treatment, because at the moment, there's no cure for polio, and there's really no cure yet for COVID either. The viruses are extremely difficult. We have not found real cures. And so that is part of the research that's going on. Originally, when I did the workup on these things from Gates, Mr. Gates wanted that to be much higher. But risking losing a lot of money, I pointed out to him and his group that we were in the business to eradicate polio. A little research was important, but that was. So in the end, I guess he himself agreed to reduce it to the 2% level. Main countries to receive the money is Pakistan again, and Nigeria, and these are the top 10 as you can see them. Afghanistan is down after the whole African continent, huge sets of money. And these are very closely watched, by the way. We do in both WHO and in UNICEF, we do audits. No other organization is allowed to audit, outside organization has been allowed to audit any books in these two things. And I have to tell you that the audits have always been excellent. We've had no problems. They look after the money properly. Whether they use it in the right place is a matter of discussion, but they don't waste it. Individually, we are still asking the clubs to annually give at least $1,500 US. Each Rotarian, we're asking to give $45 US. And as you see, that triples up into 135 because of Mr. Gates. And a donation from the Gates goes to 4,500. Now the 20%, that's a district DDF, your district designated funds. We are a great district. We have never missed giving 20% of our DDF to the polio eradication effort. And I'm very proud of that effort, and as you should be. Many of the clubs, and your club as well, have been most generous over the years. And it's rather hard to be coming back in such a strident manner, but it's so important, as has been seen. I show that picture for the reason that that man was a very nice chap. And this is another place in Karachi where I was. And this is going back, I think about 12, 14 years now. And he was supervising. Later that day, he was shot dead along with 10 others, only because he was giving the vaccine, the polio vaccine. These vaccinators, as I said before, are the heroes. And they mostly are women, 99% are women. It's a dangerous job. We've had, I think now, getting up to about 150 fatalities that I know about. But there are others, of course, that I think probably in the countries don't get into our files. So this is called to action and all. With this, how I've got this, I can't see it. That's it. With to sustain Rotary's commitment to a polio-free world through fundraising, advocacy, and raising awareness. This is the Rotarians. Ensure we reach our annual 50 million fundraising goal and fully leverage the Gates 2-to-1 match. That's the official call to action. I added this sentence because I think it's so important to remember. We keep our promise to the children, and we also honor the many who have worked unceasingly to achieve our goal and who are no longer with us. I have worked over these 36 years with many Rotarians who have put their heart into ending polio, who have given their money, and I think we should continue to remember them as we ourselves continue to eradicate the disease. On a much lighter side, I always like to finish up with a couple of photographs. And this one is a lady in northern Nigeria vaccinating this child with the drops. I think it was wonderful if she managed to get 2 little drops into that kid's mouth without dropping it down his chin or somewhere. Quite an effort. I think it's a posed photograph, but that is rather amusing. Also notice her apron. That comes from the funds you've given, because a lot of the funds that we use and send to Nigeria and places buys the equipment or the add-ons that other than the vaccine. Lastly, and as I say to people who have seen me talk before, this is how I finish every presentation, showing this little lad wearing a Macintosh. And as I've been doing this for 30 years approximately, this young lad must be about 35 or 40 by now. But that's it. I'm so happy to have come and talked to you. I can talk all the time about polio, as my wife says, but that's it for now.
Dr. Scott, I just would like to mention to you that I had the pleasure many years ago of meeting Albert Sabin when he came to speak to a group I was involved with, Friends of the Weizmann Institute in Israel. Right. And he went on to become at one point president of the Weizmann Institute. Quite a character. I
didn't meet him. I met his widow. I think it was his third wife. I'm not very sure, but she was. She was from Argentina. She was a wonderful woman.
Right.
Dr. Scott, thank you. I'm just going to open it up to questions. Is there anyone in the Duke of Kent who wants to ask a question? Go ahead, Ron.
Yes. Bob, your presentations are always wonderful. And I noticed there's always a heavy emphasis on funding from Rotary and the Gates Foundation. To what extent are the host governments putting their foot forward, pulling their weight, as we would expect them to do? And I know in the past they have. Are they still on side and equally supportive?
Yeah, Ron, it takes a little bit of persuasion some of the time, but over the years, my experience is they do come to the table eventually. The best one I had is Pakistan. Some years ago, they were certainly dragging their feet. And I was detailed by the group to go and speak to the president of the country because I had got to know him a little bit. And I asked, he set up a meeting with everybody, and the prime minister was there and all sorts of officials. And he knew what I was going to say, of course, but WHO, UNICEF, and everybody was represented. And I asked them for 35 million, equivalent of 35 million US dollars. And of course, as president of the country and a poor country, he said, oh, you could hear him say, no, and he talked to the prime minister. In the end, we got 40 million equivalent US dollars that time. And that's been the situation we've done it. Another one is India, where we invited the Minister of Health and to Evanston, showed them around, gave them a good time, and told them that they must come up with the money, and they came up big time with 100 million, equivalent of 100 million per year for 3 years. And I think they don't need as much now, but I'm sure that I'm not know the details. I think they're still doing it. Canada, of course, has been tremendous as a donor country, way above its weight in fighting, and has been extremely generous in the donations and continue to be so. But it requires a lot of lobbying, as you may be aware. And Wolf and I will focus on past international president and I spent several hours up and several years up in Ottawa.
Thanks, Bob.
Chuck, sorry, is that Shelley at the Duke?
It is. Thank you very much, Bob. Very informative. A question for you regarding the people who are targeted, shot, indeed killed, the volunteers. Are they specifically targeted because they are vaccinating people, or is this just random violence in a very unruly environment?
No, I was on a committee, I was chairman of a committee that looked into every shooting, and they were targeted, almost 100% targeted. They were anti-polio, anti-vaccine polio, specifically polio.
Wow. Anyone else at the Duke? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
Go ahead. Yeah, David Legg, Port Arthur Rotary again. Wonderful presentation, and thank you for your dedication, Dr. Scott. This is just a follow-up to Shelley's question on the topic of vaccine hesitancy. Like in the Western world, it's a huge problem, obviously. I guess a lot of it is driven by so-called social media and that type of thing, and conspiracy theories. Maybe not quite so much in the areas of Pakistan and Africa. And in terms of statistics, do you have any thoughts on what's driving it over there? Is it religious fundamentalism or conspiracy theories there, or maybe some kind of a comparison between the two areas of the world, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, it was certainly at the beginning. I haven't been over there for a few years now, and not right up to date with what's going on on the ground. But it was undoubtedly a religious thing one time. Male domination type attitude, absolutely terrifically. There was one place up in northern Pakistan where I was, where the lady didn't want her child vaccinated because her husband had said no, but she did want her child vaccinated. But if she did, the threat was that her house would be burnt down. Now that would make you hesitant, wouldn't it? I think general hesitancy, as you're talking about, was not around while I was working there, but as I say, it's some years. It was due to stress being applied by those who didn't want it done for mostly religious reasons.
Okay, anyone else at the Duke before I go to Jackie?
I've got one more question.
Hold on,
when you
Jackie
look
was
at-
first, Stephen. Jackie was
Okay.
first. Jackie, you're muted.
Still muted, Jackie.
Still muted.
Okay,
you
can you
go.
hear me? Okay. I'd just like to acknowledge the work of some members of Toronto Eglinton Rotary, like Norma Davis, who's actually been on a vaccination a group in India. Thank you,
Yeah.
Norma. I have a question about the vaccines. Where are they made? Are they made like in a variety of countries, or where are they made?
They're made in a variety of countries. And I don't remember. I've got a complete blank on that. I know some are made in Indonesia. But
It's
now,
just
of
that
course,
there's-
the original, it was mentioned about the Philippines by Lars a moment or two ago when he introduced me. That vaccine came from the Connaught. It was interesting. The Rotarians in the Philippines made the agreement with the government. The Italians gave most of the money, and most of the vaccine came from Canada. From
the reason for my question is there seems to be a movement to ensure that the vaccines are made in a variety of countries to avoid any kind of vaccine nationalism. So
that's right.
Right.
And we had a bit of that, particularly in Pakistan, but I think they've overcome that. In fact, they have overcome that. I'm sorry, I can't.
That's okay.
I've got a blank, complete blank at the moment. May come back before we finish. You know, us old folks, it sometimes does.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Stephen, and then Ed.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I must say it was a very pleasant surprise to hear you say that the Taliban are all in favor of it, because you would have expected that they would have been one of the groups that would have been so anti it. And the other thing that I'm just wondering, when you look at New York and Israel, I wonder whether it's in the ultra Orthodox Jewish communities, of course, in Israel and in New York, where there's a problem with being anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, the area in New York was very much a Jewish area, I'm told. And that area had only 60% coverage, as opposed to other areas in New York, which was up over 80%. And that's a good sign that they are at that level. But that area, maybe Hannah has more up-to-date.
Yeah, well, I only know that the one case that did occur in New York was in an ultra-Orthodox community.
Yeah.
And my sense is that the circulating, most of what they've seen circulating is coming from those communities, but I don't think is at this point solely in those communities, just because there has been so much spread.
Oh, no, spread out. I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Ed, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm curious, the next say 3 to 5 years, is there anything that gives you significant optimism versus looking back the past 3 years? Like, it looks like distribution is a challenge, especially in some of the poverty-stricken, war-torn areas. Do you see anything on the horizon that you really look at and say, gosh, just give us 3 or 5 years and something big is going to change? Anything on the horizon?
Well, I just go back to my time, of course. Did we ever think we would ever get polio out of India with the teeming millions there? And I worked, I think I was over 30 times in India. And I have to tell you that speaking with the WHO person over there who became a great friend, he was quite sure we couldn't do it. And yet we did it. And so that gives me, always gives me hope that we can do it. If we can do it in India, those of you who've been there and seen that, and other countries that have terrible poverty, and yet we did it, and terrible sewer systems, etc., etc. We did it. Of course, if Denham would get the water cleaned up, we'd be even better. But he's having problems. No, I'm positive. You know, I think this is a little step back, and it's brought everybody to the table again. I mean, we had a funding moment apparently in New York yesterday or today. I don't know what it is. I understand, you know, we've given our 150 million more. I think the other groups are going to be giving a lot of money as well. I'd be interested to see what Gates does, because he, I think, has dedicated himself to get rid of polio.
That's great. Thank you, Robert.
Any other questions? Lionel, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I'd invited David Chapman Smith, as you know, past president of our club, to attend this as well, and colleague of Bob, actually at the Coburg Club. David sends along his apologies. He has a scheduling conflict, and apparently he had to sit in as a witness on a legal case which apparently did not settle out of court. So with good intentions, he would have loved to see your presentation, Bob.
Yeah, I know. I'd like to see him.
Yeah.
Anyone else who wants to ask a question of Dr. Scott? Okay, then with that, I'm going to call upon Lars to thank Dr. Scott officially. Or sorry, Neelam, I apologize. Neelam?
Dr. Scott, this was truly an honor to have this conversation here, because polio has been the linchpin of our whole effort for so many years, and to be so close and yet not quite there. And I think your exhortations to all present and is really timely. And with the facts around there, with all the we sometimes get complacent. We do not realize how much effort has gone into it. And so this is, I can never say enough. And thank you for all the work that you do. And it was great to have you speak to us again. Thank you, Dr. Scott.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Scott, and thank you, Dr. Wunsch, for joining us today. If you want to leave, you can. We're going to break for a quick lunch, and then we'll be doing some Rotary business. So if you'd like to leave now, you can, but thank you again.
Thank you so much for including me, and hope to maybe be in touch later in the year when my book is out to share that with you all.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And I'm going for lunch too.
Beautiful. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, if you guys want to break for lunch at the Duke, I will mute you. You're already muted. Great. So we'll come back in about 5 minutes. This is different for me, being on the Zoom side rather than being in the Duke, to hear what goes on this side, on the social side. Nobody wants to talk? Go ahead, Tom.
The problem is we usually talk about you, David, and we can't now.
David, are you going down to Florida?
Pardon me,
Going to
Lionel?
Florida.
I am actually sitting in a outlet mall because my wife just finished driving, but you can't see it because it's I've got a background. But yeah, I'm sitting in a parking lot right now. We just pulled in. So I told her she has a half an hour to do some shopping while I finish up the meeting. Then we'll get back on the road and I'll drive.
Certainly a multitask. Yeah,
Okay, like the last week we've been doing some work with trails. Jackie, you're on, and Lionel, you're on. Chad, you're on. I really think we should, like as a club, we've done so much for trails, and I think it's a great thing. Jackie, did I understand that Fatima or Fatih is going to be the chairperson on that project?
First of all, I would like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I would just like to reinforce what I think that Trails is an incredible project for us to pick up the pieces and continue. I'm almost going to suggest that we kind of form a subcommittee of the youth committee, maybe to focus on and maybe get someone from community service, because I think it should be a club-wide initiative, not just for the point of view of financing, and also for the point of view of communicating within the club the plans. The only thing I don't think that Fatih intends to head it up. I think he would be a very important part of the committee and a very important person on the committee. And but I also think we should get somebody from Trails to join us as well. I don't know exactly where their thinking is. When we went up in the summer to visit, as a follow-up conversation, I heard that there was a plan to renovate the kitchen because they have taken in another 40 students. So there's another cohort. So they kind of need more storage space and that the preliminary estimate was $14,000. But that could have changed. And don't forget, we could also involve Chris Torkowski, who's a Rotarian and former member of our club, member of the Peterborough Rotarian, and the original architect of Trails. So anyway, I just think that we should pull the like-minded people together and have a subcommittee of youth, or a subcommittee of the board, if David would agree to that, because the youth committee has a number of projects that they're discussing. And I think we need just to focus on Trails, because it could be a large project, it could be a complicated project.
So I agree. I think we could, as I said to you earlier, Tom, a previous meeting, I think that you could put an action group together and really spearhead this and take some of the weight off of Chad's group, and then have some representative from Chad's group in that, as well as to Jackie's point, have someone from the community service, so we can grab those people that could bring the rest of the club into place, and then we bring that to whatever committee for the funding, because I know we have some. If we can confirm that we can use this money for the bingo money for Trails, there is some money to be spent, and I know that Chad would be more than happy to spend some of his allocation, I think. Right, Chad?
Very likely, yes. I mean, we got a couple sort of in a log jam right now, and I think I'm doing an update for the club today, but sort of deciding which ones will get priority. But yeah, Trails is near the top of the list for sure.
One of the things I like about Trails is the fact it isn't a 1 year one and done. And when we first started, we got $250,000 to help them build the first lodge. How do you get something that big through the club? And there's a lot of our club members have a lot of feelings towards Trails because they've done a whole bunch of work there. And I believe, when I was talking to Lars, that the bingo funds would be eligible for this.
I just question that, Tom, because we've done a lot of looking into bingo before and had stuff turned down, and we've been told the bingo money must be spent in the city for something in the city, and Trails is not in the city. So I don't know. Is there something I don't know?
Well,
Okay.
Lisa's going to look into that. Lisa's going to look into it. I think it's to support the population of the city. And so it really comes back to, we go back to the OLG and say, is this part of does this meet the criteria? And if it does, then we can have a bigger discussion. But to your point, being a multi-year prong attack, I think it's just something that interested group, that action group, should put together a plan of action and bring it to the club and say, here's what we want to do this year, and this is what we're proposing doing in future years, and work through it that way, so that we have a commitment long term. I just think we're with Chad working on so many projects right now that are on the pipeline. I think we want to make this a bigger initiative. I know that Jackie had brought up that, or someone had brought up at our board meeting last night, that maybe we make Trails a recipient of potentially of our fundraising our larger fundraising event. We just have to decide on how we move that forward. But I think there's an opportunity to grow something into more multi-year than just the 1 year.
David, can I suggest that instead of Lisa asking the OLG, that we have Lars, because Lars has an understanding of where the kids who go to trails come from. They're all from Toronto, the Toronto District School Board schools. So that we ask Lars to go to take the question to the OLG.
Yeah, the only reason I had Lisa as the listening person was that she is the point person for the club in regards to getting the licensing and everything done through the OLG. So they can spearhead that together, but we can take it back to them and say, between the two of you, can we just find out if Trails is part of that initiative?
Okay, so if Tom calls a meeting of an action group, the first item on the agenda then will be whether or not we're eligible for bingo funds. So we'll need that answer before we go forward.
Okay, so that's just a matter of me reaching out to Lisa and Lars and seeing if they can find out that piece.
Great
So
idea.
Tom, you just let me know when you want to have a meeting and who you'd like to be on that committee. And go. Do you want me to talk to that with the rest of the group tonight or today when we talk about this? If someone wants to be a part of that, they should reach out to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Tom, it's Ray Callan. I'd like to be part of that group.
Perfect.
Now let me look like you wanted to say something, or are you just listening? Okay. It is now 10 after 1. Everyone's eating back at the Duke of the Can. I just wanted to continue on. John McIntosh, I know you're probably eating. Let me start online what you guys are eating. But John's supposed to be tracking this.
Sorry, David, we didn't catch what you just said. You broke up on this end.
John McIntosh is supposed to be recording Happy Bucks, so I just didn't want to make sure he was able to do that.
We'll record it, no worries.
Oh, he's got his form. Good.
Okay, so who has Happy Bucks that they'd like to bring forth? I can't see everybody, so if you have something, please speak up. Go ahead, Jackie.
Well, I attended a makeup Rotary meeting on Monday. The Scarborough Rotary Club had Marie Hennon, Toronto lawyer, as a guest speaker, and it was absolutely fantastic. Marie was terrific, but it was also nice to kind of revisit another club and see how, their traditions and how they started. With it, they really play up the international aspect of Rotary with the toast to the Queen and the country. And they had they always play a tape of the national anthem, and they had a Ukrainian children's choir singing "O Canada." It was wonderful. $10.
Was that the Queen or the King?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I'm a senior's moment, just recovering from COVID.
I agree with you, Jackie. I'll give another 10 because I thought it was wonderful and it was great to get together with another club. I think we need to do that more often.
Here we are.
You could put me down.
In the other club, and we're absolutely very thrilled to be here and to realize that you're not unlike our fellow Rotarians up in Thunder Bay, Port Arthur. And thank you for welcoming us and $5 to me.
Another $5 for me for meeting up with my long lost cousin, John McIntosh.
Thank you, David and Shelley. Appreciate that. So, Stephen, you had something?
Yeah, put me down for $10. Interesting to hear Dr. Scott talking. Every time he opened his mouth, it reminded me of Sean Connery. The same soft Scottish accent.
There you go. Anyone else?
Put me down for $10 as well. That was great to see Bob and to hear him again.
And the next time I come to the meeting at the pub, I'm going to bring my scissors. I think there's a couple of gentlemen who look as if they need a haircut.
Yes, me. You can put me down for $10 too.
Can't think who that could be.
Because Jackie talked about singing God Save the King or Queen or whoever it is you wanted. When I belonged to the Rotary Club in Regina, we sang God Save the Queen when we started, and we sang Oh Canada when we finished. And eventually, after about 3 or 4 years, somebody stood up and said, "Why are we singing all these songs?" And they stopped. So you got to be careful what you like, Jack.
Yeah.
Nellum, you had something?
Put me down for 10 as well for seeing so many of you at the district conference over the weekend. I think we were about 11 of us.
Yes, it was a good group.
David, we got one. from
Anyone?
Mike Hazel at this end.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
$5 for a Bob Scott's playful jab at Ron Denham's watch right initiatives. I love the playfulness in that. Just having
Well,
two
as
giants.
Ron said, to combat polio, because it's I'm using the wrong words here, but it's a sewer disease. Water is such an important piece to eradicate polio. And Ron was very adamant. It's like, yeah, we can give them vaccines, but we got to get to that water. Right, Ron? Okay, anything else?
I got $10 for Bob for Water Street, getting Bob to come and talk to us. And another $5 to meet my long lost cousin. Who I haven't seen probably 15, 20 years.
Glad they could join us.
David, put me down for 10 for Dr. Scott's presentation, please.
Thank you, Laura. Let's move on. Let's talk to my presence announcements. Let me just share my screen. Give me 2 seconds here. Just gotta find it. Okay. Can everyone see that? Can you see that, Ray?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Oh, okay. So district update. So to follow up on what Nellum said, there was 11 of us plus 2 spouses that attended. Actually, I think there's more than that because Walter Sotka came and took pictures as well. I think it was a great convention, and I think Toronto Eglinton was very well highlighted. I think we had one of the largest groups, probably other than the Etobicoke Host Club. And Nellum spearheaded a whole bunch of different presentations on the environment on Sunday, which was fantastic. And I think we also did hear Dr. Scott speak to us in a little bit larger presentation. But again, it was just as educational this time around as it was on the weekend. So it was a fantastic convention. The next convention's coming up October of next year, October 2023, and it's going to be out in Oshawa, and I'll have more details on it as we get closer. We also talked about the October 20th 7070 World Polio Day live from the Rotary Global Classroom. There are still seats as of this weekend. They had about 60 seats still available for the in-person if you want to go out to Durham College. And there's also the availability if you want to view it on the Zoom link. So I will send that information out in the follow-up. But if you do want to get them go out in person, there are probably some tickets still available. This weekend, I did mention it last weekend, but October 22nd, the East York, I spelled that wrong. East York Foundation Walk has been rescheduled to that date. It's the same one where they're picking up garbage along the Don Valley. But I have all that information. I will follow all that up in the follow-up email. And again, next week is our district raw. I know there's some clubs that are interested in joining us from our conversations over the weekend at the conference. So there may be more than just a couple clubs there, which is great. So if you are interested in going, it's on Thursday, not on Wednesday next week. And it's at the Amsterdam Brew House in Laird, just south of Eglinton, in that mall where the Longos is. Something else I've been asked to talk to is the Jack-O-Lantern Jubilee in support of Maddie's Healing Garden. This is an initiative that's been put out by this initiative that the Youth and Vocational Committee has been following up on. But this is something to celebrate the 3rd year of the initiative between all the clubs, but it's being put on by the Rotary Club of Willowdale, the Rotary Club of North York, and the Rotaract Club of Willowdale. It's Saturday, October 29th at the Grand Lux Event Boutique at 3125 Bayview Avenue. There's a 6 p.m. reception and a 7 p.m. dinner. There is music and entertainment. The tickets are $175, and I will put all the contact information if you're interested in going and supporting this initiative. So that'll be there as well. Also, in regards to club updates, so our president-elect nominations, our president-elect nominee nominations are still open until the end of the month. So they're open until the end, to October 31st, the week Monday. So if you haven't already nominated anyone, please do so. I will send a link again. You can email me directly. I have received some already, so thank you very much for those. We had our first fireside chat last week on Thursday. I think it was very successful. I hope the newer members found it very informative. And I think we'll probably do more of them. Lois, is there anything you want to speak to on that?
I'm still eating my lunch. I've got my mouth full, but if there isn't anything else I want to say, except we will definitely be doing one in probably February-ish.
Great.
Could you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you for that. Meeting venue update. So I want to bring everybody up to speed. We are going to be moving back to the Toronto Lawn and Tennis Club sometime this fall. We're ironing out the dates exactly when it's going to happen, but it will probably be near the end of November. If it doesn't happen at that time frame, it probably will happen first thing in the new year. Just so everyone knows, it's going to be a very similar lunch that we're having at the Duke of Kent. What we are going to do is probably do it in order to keep our costs down on a monthly basis. We're going to be doing the first and third weeks of the month. We're going to be doing an in-person hybrid meeting at the Toronto Lawn. The second and the fifth, if we do need a fifth week of the month, will be Zoom only. And then the fourth week of the month will be the Raw. So I'll have more information to you once I get the final details from the Toronto Lawn Tennis Club, but look forward for us to be moving over there shortly. As we know that, accessibility is a big issue for us at the Duke of Kent because it is a set of stairs. And so that needs to be addressed. And the Toronto Lawn does address that for us. And it is our home away from home. So this is something that we've been looking forward to. And I know that Jackie has offered to put a huge celebratory return to the Toronto Lawn together. So we're excited about that. I think there should be a lot of fun that first day back. So I encourage everyone to put the date in their calendar once I give it to you, to be able to be available to be for that first in-person meeting. The holiday lunch, just so everyone can put this in their calendar. We have our holiday lunch at the Rosedale Golf and Country Club on December 14th. Please hold the date. I will have more details shortly. We're just finalizing everything with the Rosedale Golf and Country Club. And once we do, I will share them with everyone. Note that your significant partners are more than welcome to join us. And they will be charged the same amount as a fellow Rotarian. So the more the merrier. I think it's always been a great fun event that we have every year. So I encourage you to attend that. It'll be a great day. And I will follow up with that shortly. Some upcoming calendar events for the club. So tonight, there's an International Service Committee meeting at 7 p.m. We have a Strategic Planning Committee meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. via Zoom. On October 24th, we have I apologize, on October 20th is the District 7070 Polio event. And then we are celebrating World Polio Day on October 24th through our social media. And then October 26th, Stephen has a fundraising committee meeting at noon via Zoom. And then note there's nothing on that evening for Raw at our own location at the Duke, but there will be the district Raw at the Amsterdam Barrel House. And then I will be part of on November 1st, a regional presidents meeting. There's more stuff to come for November. I just didn't include it on this today. And with that, I'm going to move this over to, I'm going to start with Jim, who's going to speak to us on apologize, let me just close this out. I'm going to pass it over to Jim. There we go. I'm going to pass it over to Jim to do his international committee update.
I have a very quick update today because it was just about a week ago that we authorized a couple of expenditures, one for a wash project in Kenya in partnership with the Montreal Rotary Club, and the second a new project in Egypt in conjunction with Naveen Yasa and the Scarborough Club. Both of those we've communicated that we'll be supporting them. They're thrilled that we are. And so those are two good projects that will go forward. As David just mentioned, we have a committee meeting tonight, so we'll certainly have more interesting projects to bring to you next month. That's my report, David.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. And we're going to ask Chad if he can to give us an update on the youth and vocational since he was unable to do it last week. Are you good to go, Chad?
Thanks, David. Well, we've got a bunch of different projects that are sort of top of mind. Just about all of them have actually spoken to our club in the last few months, so they'll sound familiar. And we have one formal proposal in. I was actually hoping we could come to you with a motion today, but we're not quite ready on it yet. 13th round, and that's the a boxing program for inner city youth. And then we have breaking news based on the sidebar conversations today at lunch. We're going to be working closer with, there's pretty much consensus within the group that we're going to work in some way with trails again going forward. And Jackie and Tom and David were discussing on the sidebar here at lunch that maybe this should be a subcommittee so we can, it can really be a club-wide initiative. And the appropriate time can be spent on it. So if you're interested in joining that, I believe Tom is going to take the reins. So let him know. And I think their big ask at the moment, if it's something we can accomplish, is helping them with their kitchen, which is in need of a renovation. So that would be the initial way to get involved there, I believe. But let Tom know if you're interested in that. And then, you know, there's a bunch of other things on the docket, such as Project Give Back. One of the things discussed at our last meeting on October 5th was coming up with a theme of the year, and Mike Hazel floated a theme, and we're going to decide, maybe coming up with a theme will help us decide which projects sort of fit in best with that theme. So maybe more to come there. We're still working that out. And another interesting idea was we have all these various projects and partnerships we work with through our committee. So we're going to title those different organizations our Youth Service Affiliate Network. And at the end of the year, or more towards the end of the year, when we've been working closely with some of these groups, we actually want to set up a networking event to have them meet each other, because there might be an opportunity for them to sort of refer clientele back and forth, learn from each other, work with each other. And also, I know Mike Hazel is working on a Field of Dreams initiative, a field of his initiative called the Field of Dreams, which is really with Mina and getting something on LinkedIn for mentorship. So that could be an opportunity for many of the different partnerships we have. So that's probably towards the end of the year.
Thank you, Chad. Any questions? Any questions for Chad or Jim?
I'd like to as a comment, the whole focus of that forum, our Youth Services Affiliate Network, will be to see how we might be able to springboard off of them to create interact clubs and Rotaract clubs, and develop a sounder farm system, bringing in new diverse members to this Rotary Club. So
we can't hear you, Mike.
Well, I said the whole raison d'etre for the forum, the ASAN forum, is going to be to make sure that we're leveraging properly off of those connections to create interact clubs and Rotaract clubs, to develop a farm system so that we can bring in new diverse members and do that on an inclusive basis. Again, if you're going to go fishing, you want to go where the fish are. So if we're looking for more minority groups, we're we're looking for diversity in terms of income distribution. I think it's ideal for us to look at the development of the farm system, bring in new members, and capitalize on that.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I neglected to mention that, but yes, we could have a lot of potential Rotarians or Rotaract members in this case in our various affiliate networks. So we should try to be tapping that resource as well.
Thank you, Chad. And before we go to our last speaker, I want to, I think I gave a quick opportunity for Dawn to bring a motion to the membership today.
All right. Okay. Okay, it's come to our attention. There's an organization called Street Health, who is a charitable organization that helps the homeless with overdose prevention and community harm and a mobile health bus. They have a need for a new autoclave that they use in sterilizing their foot care instruments during the winter foot care program. Their autoclave has pretty much conked out and is smoking when they plug it in. So it's going to cost $9,000 to get a new one. They've raised about $1,500. We'd like to pass a motion. All voted on this, and the board passed it last night to donate $5,000 to Street Health, specifically for the new autoclave. Do I have a second?
Give a second.
Second. Walter, second.
What? Okay.
Any questions?
All in favor? Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
No.
Okay.
Motion
I
passed.
think you've got a pass here.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Lois for environmental comments per minute.
Excuse me, everyone. I've got this real bad cough so I'll try to not cough in the middle of it. So I've got a couple of things to say, and the first one is that last week when we had the speaker, Orlando Martin from the Flemo Garden / Farm, after it, in the afternoon, I sent out an invitation to everyone on behalf of the environmental committee, because we felt that people would like to visit the farm after just hearing Orlando speak. And we have not received anyone that wants to visit the farm. Thinking, of course, that maybe people think it's too cold to stand around and see the farm and it's not as interesting this year. So we are deferring that event to the spring. So please, I hope everyone hears this and nobody sort of goes out to the farm because we won't be there. That's the first. Now, I'm sorry for my cough. So David, do I have 2 minutes?
Yes, you do. Go ahead.
Okay, so I want you to rethink your paper habit. This is our environmental minute that we were to have last month and we ran out of time. So first of all, let's look at some facts. It's a fact. 15 billion trees are cut down every year and only 4 billion are planted. That's a worldwide statistic. Fact, paper accounts for 25% of landfill waste and 33% of municipal waste. Fact, the average person in North America uses in one form or another 470 pounds of paper every year. Fact, 16 billion paper cups made from 6.5 million trees are used for coffee every year. Of all the paper that is discarded, approximately 60% is recycled, which is the beginning of a good story. The problem is the remainder, which is not recycled and is still a lot of paper. Some of the paper that is more challenging to recycle includes paper that is coated or has observed food waste. For example, coated juice and cereal boxes, coated paper cups, milk cartons, ice cream cartons, soiled pizza boxes, magazines laminated with plastic, even store receipts that have a plastic coating. What can you do about this? Step 1, build your paper awareness. As you did with plastic, start your mind shift by taking stock of all the paper you use or toss during the day. Think about the kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. Then think about the paper waste you experience at your work environment, after shopping trips, and after stops at your favorite coffee spot or lunch stop. Step 2, take action by looking for ways to reduce your use of paper. Use toilet paper and towels made from post-consumer recyclable content. Use a reusable mug rather than daily disposable paper coffee cups. Replace paper towels with a container of small cloth towels that you keep where you now keep your paper towels. Wash these towels when you have lots of dirty ones in cold water. Reduce parchment paper use in baking with silicone baking mats. Consider e-bites rather than physical cards for invitations. Save old t-shirts for wiping down windows and cleaning the car. Use regiftable wraps, leftover fabric, old scarves, or pages of a magazine instead of new gift wrap. Fall in love with cloth napkins. They end up being far less expensive than constant replacement of paper ones. When eliminating paper isn't possible or desirable, look for post-consumer recycled material or sustainable alternative fabrics such as sustainable bamboo. Today, paper is even being made with recyclable cotton. Use post-consumer recycled paper in your printer and print double-sided when possible. Replace your paper coffee filters with a washable, reusable one. Reconsider the coffee pods. These pods are proving difficult to recycle and are piling up in landfills at alarming rates. Take a good look at what you get in the mail and unsubscribe for anything you regularly get but don't use or read. Become an advocate. Write to express your dissatisfaction with companies that continue to use virgin paper for their products. Any paper product not clearly marked as made with post-consumer or recycled material is a definition of made with virgin paper. Just ask your favorite pizza joint to consider switching to a fully composable pizza box. I could go on and on, but my minute is up. Just before I sit down, I just want to make a little plug for the social committee and make sure everybody remembers our November 26th event at the Famous People Players. We told you before that we needed 20 people to keep our special price of $75 a person for dinner and the theater. Well, we have 23, so our, that's over and done with, but we'd still like to have more people come. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lois. Okay, and with that, first off, before we leave for the day, I just want to thank Mike Roy for filling in for me at the Duke Kent to make sure that we had everyone available and visible. So thank you, Mike, for your efforts there. Oh, Walter, you have something?
Okay, I've got a meeting later today with the Out of the Cold Committee from York Minster Park Baptist Church. We're going to be starting in about a week and a half. And I've got about 6 or 7 Rotarians on the list right now. Is there anybody here, either online or in the room here, that I haven't contacted that would like to join us?
Well, they're still going to be Wednesday night, right?
Yes, still Wednesday night. Are you okay?
I'm confident.
Okay, good. You're okay? Okay, good. Thank you. Is there anybody online that would like to join us? I need about 2 or 3 more people. Again, it's going to be Wednesday nights, probably once a month from November to April. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Walter. I'll also include the link to you in our follow-up email today, too. Okay, thank you, everybody. Next week is RAW, our district RAW, so there is nothing at the Duke of Kent, so please don't come over at lunch on Wednesday. But everybody have a great week, and we'll see you in person at the beginning of November. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.